Did that work last time to record to the cloud to the group to that where you, is that where you normally save it? Record.
I put it to my computer because then I
Oh,
can
okay. I'll let
easily.
you go ahead. I'll go let you
Yep.
go ahead and record it then.
It's already started, I believe. Thanks.
All right. This month, just like last month, we're still talking about single stair buildings. We have our final focus group happening tomorrow, 2:30 to 3:30, or 2 to 3:30, sorry, at the Webb building down on Colfax, 201 West Colfax. If you can't make it, or you've made it and you still want to take the survey, we'd love that. There's a link to take the survey there. Again, we're just looking for feedback from people on the single stairs. So this is building what I would consider small apartment buildings on lots that are 6,250 square feet or less. There's a lot of rules regarding that. And we're looking to kind of discuss how high they should be, right? The proposal is for 5, but should it be 4? There's some information on the website regarding, what is being allowed via the House Bill 25-1273 and what we're proposing. So, I encourage people to take the survey, come tomorrow if you can, and get involved. Next one, please. All right, we have the I-25 Spear and 23rd Avenue Bridge replacement. So there was a meeting at the end of August. So they held a public open house, and they talked about the 2 recommended proposed actions that they're proposing for the 23rd Avenue, which would be the braid alternative, and Spear Boulevard being the diverging diamond. If you've ever been to 36 in McCaslin, that is a diverging diving, so they're looking to do that on Spear. They're asking for people's feedback on these proposed alternatives. And there's a survey that closes September 5th, so Friday.
Hey, Melissa, is
Yeah,
I have to think back. That diverging diamond, is that the weird thing where you end up making a left and you're on the wrong side of the road as it feels? Okay, I thought that's what that was. Okay, thank
it
you.
is. Yeah,
Okay.
so you end up on the other side of the road, but it makes for easy left-hand turns because you're not crossing traffic, so you can get on the highway and you can see pedestrians as they're crossing because in a situation where you have pedestrians that are going to be traversing Spear like they do now, you're not crossing over traffic only to find pedestrians crossing right there as well. So it is considered safer. It is a little weird to drive at first,
It
but I
is a
found
little
it
weird to drive
pretty,
it. I
I found it's
agree.
okay. I mean,
I feel like we need an education campaign, like lots
Like
of social media, animation, how to, like, I feel like the city should do that because like circles are like that. I find them easy because I grew up around them. But like this was a new one. Like I'm familiar with it, but every time I go there, I find it so weird and bizarre and think, am I gonna crash? Am I doing the right thing? I hope the city's thinking about an education campaign, social media, advertising, ways
well,
to make people
I think
not.
that would be CDOT, right? Since this is CDOT
Oh, okay.
making the
Okay.
bridge.
So CDOT. Okay.
So CDOT, yes. And I think there will be some education, but then again, if you've driven the traffic circles, which I'm sure you have on Pecos, people don't care and they're still going to be
Yeah.
absolutely terrifying. Um, but that one thankfully is a little more intuitive than traffic circles.
Yeah, sure. Thank
Um, Sheridan Corridor Safety Study. So they're really excited. They've just put out this in the last couple of days here, some corridor-wide recommendations, and then some priority intersection recommendations. So in Northwest Denver, there's some recommendations for 20th, 29th, and 52nd Avenues. So they're looking for some feedback on that, and they're asking for some comments. So there's some links to that. They're also going to be at the Dragon Boat Festival, which is now going to be September 6th and 7th. So far less roasty over at Stones Lake Park, and they'll be there from 10 to 5. But yeah, this is something that we encourage people to participate in. Sheridan is obviously not a great corridor for anyone, not drivers, not pedestrians. It's
Yeah.
generally pretty miserable. So, we encourage your participation on that. We've got the Rocky Mountain Park, Lake Park tennis courts. So they're going to be undergoing asbestos abatement. So September 8th through the 19th, weather permitting and all the things. This shouldn't disrupt pretty much anyone's enjoyment of the park, anyone that lived nearby. They're taking all the necessary precautions, but just to be aware that, of course, the tennis courts will be closed during this. And
What
if you have any
what
questions,
elements had asbestos in it?
it's underneath the asphalt.
Oh shit.
Wow.
Oh.
Yeah. So Sloan's Lake already went through this. This is, unfortunately, it seems like this was a common um, installation technique at one point. And so now when we go in there and disrupt
What
it,
did they, I mean, I know you may not know the technical thing, but was it asbestos in the actual concrete, or you said below it? Like what?
I think that there may have been well, I don't know is the answer. I don't want to speculate too much, but
Yeah. But are they tearing they're obviously tearing the courts out.
yeah, they're going to tear up. They're in pretty bad shape.
Yeah, well,
Um,
no, because like North plays over there, and we were going to the tennis matches until last year. So we had friends that were on the tennis team. So it was just interesting. I didn't hear about that. That's crazy. Like they just
yeah,
found
it's
asbestos.
asbestos is in the weirdest places, but
Yeah, it's everywhere.
because we used it for so long, right? Um,
Right. Well, and it's fine where it is because it's not going to affect anybody. But since they probably have to replace the courts because they're in such bad shape, well, they got to get rid of the asbestos too.
correct. So,
Yeah.
and the second you disturb that, right,
Yeah, and
it
then you
requires
start
all
tearing.
sorts of.
Yeah, that's the problem when you start tearing it apart. Wow.
So yeah, just as a heads up, that's going to be there. And then we have the Resilient Landscape Project. So this we just met today. So this is just looking to update Denver's codes, rules, regulations, etc., on policies to create resilient landscapes that are, accommodating for our droughts and our warming future. So they're kind of seeking feedback. Unfortunately, they just closed the survey. I didn't realize they were going to close it, but they're going to release a second survey here shortly, where they're going to be seeking some more feedback from people on various topics, including, what is preventing you, or you, the user, that's or the person taking the survey, from doing sustainable landscaping in your yard? Do you have concerns over aesthetics? Do you have concerns over cost? Do you have concerns over accessibility, or what is it for you? So there'll be some questions related to that. They'll also be at our Rocky Mountain Lake Park cleanup that we're doing on September 13th. They'll be there 9 to 11, and we'll be cleaning up the park from 10 to noon. So you're welcome to stop by, share your feedback with them, grab an ice cream, and if you can, stay with us and clean the park. Then we have the Sloan's Lake Boathouse. They're having a virtual meeting. So they are repurposing that boathouse. There was a master plan years and years ago that kind of envisioned using that as a community space. And so they're continuing to move forward toward that ideal. So they're going to have this virtual meeting on September 18th, and there's a link there to register to attend. We have Unlocking Housing Choices, which Rod is familiar with.
Yep.
They are they're reconfiguring right now as they
Yep.
adjust to some of the layoffs and the like. So, there's some links here. Basically, this is just a project that's allowing more missing middle housing forms. So we're looking to increase the duplexes, fourplexes, all different types of housing, gentle density that we can add into neighborhoods, which was always kind of the case as they were built. If you look in Sunnyside, there's many examples of that. I believe Decatur is a good example between 43rd and 44th of several kind of small apartment buildings where there's 4 to 6 units that were kind of built in the neighborhood without any issue. There's some on Federal as well. So the question is how do we allow those? How do we accommodate those types of inclusions in our community? So this process is going forward, but they are skipping this month and they'll continue back in October.
Yep. I just got those notifications today for the cancellation.
Oh, just okay.
Yeah, they sent out emails to the calendars and they canceled this month's meeting and rescheduled next month's.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I for some reason I must have received advance notification on that.
I mean, I think they kept
Um,
it the same date, but the agenda was basically the agenda for this month has been
just
moved to next month. Yeah.
yeah. And then this, same as last month, this is just a reminder that the Vibrant Denver bond package did get referred by City Council to the November ballot, so November 4th, 2025 ballot. Voters will have an opportunity to decide on 5 questions related to transportation and mobility, parks and recreation, health and human services, city facilities, and housing and shelter infrastructure. Um, so it'll be that we were just talking about this today. I believe that there's only 2 things that we're referring to the ballot this year. So it'll be that, and it'll be a question on should there be a change to the at-large voting structure. So currently, we take the top 2 vote getters of at-large, and this is saying should we separate them into 2 ballot people? So you would have someone that's running for at-large A and someone running for at-large B, and you would be selecting based on those. Um, and then I think I have the last one is just a reminder of people that the modernizing parking requirements did pass. Again, same thing as when we moved the bond to the ballot. And so that did remove parking minimums citywide. We're going to be working with them to update our transportation demand management requirements to reflect that. And this is partially in compliance with the state legislation. It did go above and beyond, but it's helping us meet the requirements of the state legislation passed in 2024, which is listed on there. So I think that's all I have.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, thank you. Thanks for coming and giving the report. Anybody have any questions or anything for Melissa?
Hey Rod, this is Tripti. I don't have questions for Melissa, but I want to go back. I know we skipped over whether were anybody on this that had any public comment before we moved on to the regular part of
Yeah,
the
we kind of jumped
agenda.
in.
Just make sure we go back in case I know we have some new people here that we haven't seen here before, in case they came for that.
Yeah, and I'll bring back up the agenda and we can jump back into the agenda. So, well, thank you, Melissa. I appreciate the update.
Welcome.
Um, okay, well, we kind of jumped ahead because we had Melissa right on early, so we can go back and open it up to the floor if anybody has any short public comments they'd like to bring up or talk about or discuss or bring to the table for future discussion. All righty. Hearing none, I guess we
Oh,
can just.
I had a quick question.
Oh yeah, go ahead,
Hi.
Lexi.
Hi. Um, we might have talked about this and maybe I forgot, but what's happening across from on 44th on the south side across from the new bar? Is that
Oh, townhomes.
uh
Townhomes, that was put in way before
Yeah,
our overlay, so and I think it was done by right. I haven't looked at it in a while, but since since that individual had gone through SDP and originally they were looking for a variance on setbacks, which I believe was or actually denied, and he had to just modify the number of units. Nothing else has come through, so I would assume it's going through. I haven't looked him up, more recently on SDB, but I think it's like 12 townhomes.
ugh, bummer. Okay, thanks.
Hmm.
yeah, and ironically, I think the reason they couldn't get that extra unit in there is because they had to devote stuff to parking. If they had waited a little longer, they could have got what they wanted to put in.
No, no, they could not have. They wanted garage. They wanted an additional garage. I think, if
Oh,
anything, I'm not sure. And that was part of the reason that we didn't approve it because there was already at least we didn't support it, rather. There was already one parking spot allocated to each one, and they wanted to have 2 parking spots. And we thought,
Right.
with all of the impact on like not devoting to parking and to car infrastructure, it didn't make sense to support a variance that would allow for more car infrastructure. So we did not,
Well,
support
but
his
if
ask.
I, sorry, like I remember what it was is because they wanted to put that extra parking in there, I guess, or something.
The setbacks would have needed, they were going to go into
They
the
were going
setback.
through they were going up through the bulk plane because it would
Correct.
increase their
Right.
volume. Yeah, so
But I don't believe, unless something has changed, at least from that variance, I don't believe they got approval for that. So I think they went back to the number of units with the parking spaces. But you know what? This is a question that's come up a couple times. We should go look up the SDP and make sure we know for next time, just, let people know exactly what's going up, the number of units and such.
well, and that's why I thought it had to do with the number of units. They wanted to get that extra unit in there, and it was going to add two additional spots, but they had enough room for the
I think
unit,
you're
but
right. Yeah. I think it was
yeah,
gonna
but
be
not
like
for the parking.
13
But
or
that's what I'm saying.
14. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. They had enough room for the apartment, but they didn't have enough room to get the apartment and the parking.
Correct.
Any either
Correct.
way,
Yeah, yeah,
we
you're
denied
right.
it. We I don't think we approved it, and I don't think the city did either. So it was
No,
kind
the
of
city did not.
yeah. So
No, you're right.
anyway,
You're right.
yeah,
I just looked it up. It looks like 15.
yeah,
15?
I don't know if you want to, I don't know if you can see I don't know how to share screen, but I just pulled up the SUV and it
Yeah,
shows.
I don't think it was ever 15. So it's interesting. They must have gone back
yeah.
and made changes. But either way, what they did was done by right. So they were able to, do it without any rezonings. And I don't think there was any additional variances
I just
beyond.
put it in the chat. Sorry, Tripty.
Thanks. No, no, thank you.
Yeah, because
I didn't think it was
I don't
15.
remember 15.
No, I don't either.
I remember when we saw
Maybe
it,
I counted wrong.
I thought it was 11 or 12 or something.
11, 12, 13, 14, 15.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is. Yeah, you're
Oh,
right.
what a bummer. Shoot. Wait, so do we actually have an overlay that is similar to the Tennyson one, or do we never
No, we
get that?
do. We do, but this was already kind of in
Okay. Yeah.
progress. It's the issue. Just like the
Good.
property across from Monkey Barrel is
Yeah.
be
Yeah. That's such a
subjected to it.
bummer.
So yeah,
Well,
it's more that.
and this is really like some other shoehorn thing, basically a slot home, like flipped around because they've got access to two alleys.
Mhm.
Um, so it's essentially a slot house look. Yeah, it's a shame that this is going in there because
Yeah,
I
it's
know.
exactly. No, I agree. I
yeah,
agree.
there wasn't. I mean, there really wasn't a lot we could do because, like
Yeah.
Thrifty said, this was a use by right sort of application at the time.
And they have
I-
those few units that are facing the street, right? That was the other part
Right,
of it.
right.
Yeah. I just get so like, I just worry about like the sustainability of certain businesses, like if you don't have enough of a walkability to like that, like semi-pressure, like who's going to continue to go? I don't know. We'll see.
Well,
Hopefully we
yeah,
can
but
get a
also
little bit more.
that from that front, right?
Yeah.
More housing and more people
Sure. It's
usually
going to
leads
help.
to, more, more support for businesses. So
Yeah.
True.
goes either way, but yeah.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
you can
Thanks.
totally see it on the different stretches of Tennyson.
Yeah, I know.
Exactly the
It's so
mistakes that were
bad.
made in on the few blocks
Yeah.
and the good things that were done on the other blocks because we just went over there the other night and those ones with storefronts, I mean, it is packed and it was really fun. But then you get
Mhm.
down there, north of 44th,
Dead.
and it's just night and day. It's
I
just night
agree.
and day. But like Tripti said, like all those people probably support the businesses further to the south, walk down that way.
Yeah, true.
Um, so
Okay,
anyway,
cool. Thank you.
so this agenda that I've got is basically Tripti, and if you wanted to jump in, it was basically sort of continuing along from a lot of the stuff we talked about last month. Like it was just more updates and stuff. I don't think much has moved forward, and to anybody that wasn't at the block captain meeting the other night, Tripti and I kind of reviewed quite a bit of this because it's kind of tangentially related to some of the things with the block captain work that Tripti's been working on. So um, I can just go down through the list here and we'll go down. Tripti, if you didn't have anything, I would like to talk more about those maybe in our focus discussion about these district creations and stuff like that. if that's okay
Yeah,
with you.
I don't have anything
Okay.
specific to topics here.
Okay. So Matthew Elliott, had started sort of, and he's not here tonight, but it started with the safe streets idea. And listen, that might be a question for you. We had sent a letter over to Amanda, and I brought it up during that when I had those office hours with her, and then I forwarded her, and she had was really busy, and then she got back, and she said she liked the language. Is that something that she supports, or can we ask for an update on that, and then I could get that to Matthew?
Yeah, you should probably include me on those types of things because I wasn't aware that you had sent that. I know we had talked about it, but I wasn't aware that you had sent that.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Amanda responded to me later on and was like, "Oh, I've got it. I'm sorry, I just fell off her plate, kind of thing." So I can follow up on that.
yeah, I'm
And it
trying
was
to
just
think
a
of
it was
them.
just a letter that Matthew had crafted about those pilot projects, those like doing stuff that's like not exactly tactical urbanism, but something that's sort of low cost. And, he seemed to have had volunteers and they were sort of like just temporary sort of, little
I,
projects to sort of see what type of street crossings and such would be appropriate in different areas.
I think that it would depend, right? Like, I think you would probably have to either hire someone. I will tell you, most of those types of things are done through a third party with engineering experience. You
Yeah,
can't
and I
just
don't.
throw
Matthew's got
things up on the
examples and
street.
stuff and research that he's done and
No,
projects
I
that were.
understand that, but it doesn't apply to Denver.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
and so I think it was like sort of these temporary things with cones and stuff, and I just wasn't as familiar with it. But yeah,
we have some really
basically we know
strict
not
rules
we
on that.
talking to Dottie, none of it's going to happen anyway because there's just no money for any of that type of stuff. And so it was really like his request to just say, go on record that this was something that, Amanda would support if, funding ever did come around for some project like this. And that all ties back into these bike corridors and things like that. Because his real Matthew's big focus, well, primarily, sort of stemmed from 41st and like the accident they've had along there of kids going to school and stuff like that. And so, what can we do to make that a little safer? So anyway, I'll
No,
follow up
no,
with an email.
yeah, no. And I can mention it to her, but just so you know, she's getting ready to head out of town for 2.5 weeks.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of a hectic time here.
Yeah, well, and I
But
don't,
I
I
will
don't,
certainly bring it up with her.
and I
I
don't know if it's
think
necessarily time sensitive because we know nothing's going to happen like critically right away anyway. So,
no worries. Yeah, let me, I'll bring it up with her and see. I think, you know, although she supports it in theory, it's really hard to support concepts as opposed to
yeah.
concrete proposals.
And that's what I think Matthew wanted to move forward was identifying like concrete proposals based on stuff and bring in the right people and like you said, the engineers and figure that out so that when there was funding, there was something that was kind of, that shovel ready idea. So anyway,
Yeah, I will tell you, like, I know that, Congress Park worked with Radian um, at one point to do pop up. And I think that some of the BIDs have done that. I want to say possibly West Colfax has done a similar thing. But generally, they have raised funds either through
mhm.
membership or through other types of fundraising through the council office or whatever to fund these outside engineering firms to kind of post these pop-ups, to take data from these pop-ups,
Yeah, and I
that
think
type of thing.
Yeah, I think that data was the critical part, that at least in my mind's eye, that's the critical part because some of the improvements that we've done so far, like along Clay Street and stuff, I question their validity, like some of the shapes of and I don't know, I knew they came from somewhere, but I don't know if anybody's really monitoring or functioning the success or failure of them, um, or how well they're working. Um, because from my observational just seeing experience, it's not the ones they put in on clay aren't working. They're not slowing people down at all. So um anyway, okay, any comments on that or anybody else want to chime in or okay, we'll move on to it was Matt Levesque had brought this up a couple times ago about the safety and maintenance on some of the streetscapes, and we've talked about this a couple of times. Um, this sort of falls into the same category, although this one's even a little bit weirder because there are issues about whose responsibility it is to fix some of these things. And he had a whole slideshow of, bolts sticking up out of the ground where there's columns missing and empty tree wells that are tripping hazards and those sort of things. And I guess identifying this and calling 311 is what we've kind of decided for right now. If there's legitimately safety issues that should be addressed, those are the ones that we should really target around the neighborhood. And I think he was thinking sort of along 44th. There's a few little spots like that. Although he had pictures from all over the city of the various examples of these safety issues. So, and he's not here tonight either, but we can follow up on that. And this might go back to linking in with the block captains as well.
Yeah,
Having
I'll jump in on the block captain's piece. So we talked about the fact that there were like these safety issues, but we also talked about safety issues that were more generic to sidewalks. One of them being the types of things that now fall into the new sidewalk program, which may be a little different than things that may fall into neighborhood inspection services. For instance, sidewalks that are missing are going to fall into this new sidewalk program. However, if we've got trees obstructing a sidewalk, that's going to fall into the homeowner who needs to take care of that, right? And then something like those holes that are just truly safety issues, they may be a one-off in the sense that we're not going well, the city might not want to wait until they replace sidewalks to take care of certain damages that are truly a safety issue. So on that front, one of the takeaways I had from the block captain meeting was to talk to someone from contact from the sidewalk replacement program to find out, you know, we have block captains. We are looking to have them kind of assess, sidewalks for X, Y, and Z. What stuff, do they look at and say, don't use 311, send it to us in a different way, or that falls under the sidewalk replacement. There's, fee-based thing that the city's going to take care of versus here's these things that you should still report under 311 because it's something that they're going to fix. So I don't have that distinction, but I have a call out to the individual at Dottie who is the liaison for this program to kind of get information on this before we ask our block captains to go start doing something. So, TBD from that standpoint, but our neighborhood through our Black Captain program is looking to deal with safety on our sidewalks. We kind of want to just work with the city to, not create noise, but be more of a partner to help assess, to help prioritize. So, but what that looks like is something that we want to, talk to them first before we start just flooding, 311 or something else. So that is a takeaway for me. I have reached out to the individual, hoping to talk to them this week or next week, and then then getting back to our block captains to say, do this, not that, or do this, but in a different way. So more to come there, but that's what I'm working on from the sidewalk safety piece through block captains.
Perfect. Thanks, Trupti.
Yep, thank you.
So, and then I guess that kind of also leads into this discussion because part of the safety hazards that we discussed were things like those lamps that aren't owned by XL. They were probably part of some sort of improvement district at one point and put in what put those in on 40? I see you nodding your head on 44th.
So I looked at the email. You're not on it, Tripti is. But basically, there was some grants issued in 2011. Brendan over at the city shared a great document that we hadn't even seen, showing that these were put in all over the city, they're not part of a maintenance district. There
Oh,
was a lot of weird things done by the city as part of a beautification. They allowed people to put these in with no plan of maintaining them. So it's like they gave them money to put something in the right of way and said, hopefully you maintenance this.
yeah. Oh, geez. Okay. All right. Well, and that led to discussions about like the possibility of some sort of maintenance district or um, improvement district, like for talking about that in areas like 44th and stuff like that. But I have no knowledge really of those different entities and how they're formed and how they're structured. And so the continuing focus conversation that we've sort of started here and will continue for a while is, finding the people with the knowledge on how these are formed and should we or can we or what the actual goals would be and those sort of things and defining that. Basically, an information discovery sort of period here where we try to figure out are there ways we can, start doing some of these improvements ourselves or those sort of things, and it looks like this is like a long-term commitment if we can move through the process at best. And so those are some of the things. I know Troopy's reached out to a couple people that have experience with some of these things. And it's basically just information gathering at this point. So if there's any other updated stuff, Troopy, that you've got on that side of things, that's what I sort of had planned for the focus discussion. But we can table it until next month too, because I don't think we've moved much forward. Or did we lose Troopy?
No, I have not. We have not, moved any further with this, but that is the goal, kind of this discovery, this education and assessment, whether any of these are tools we, as a neighborhood organization, can, should, lobby for. But associated with that, another thing, and a business owner kind of brought this to our attention, and it's associated with kind of looking at these corridors and making them pedestrian friendly. Kind of, is it walkable? Is it all these things like where something like one of these special districts plays a part in making a corridor a corridor? One of the aspects of that was where does something like Excel fit in, and where does taking overhead, where does taking electricity and putting underground fit in, meaning, making this corridor, more accessible, more friendly, safer. So it's a business owner who kind of was like, hey, is that even possible? And we're like, we haven't thought about that. So Melissa, you're shaking your head. So I'd like to hear from you what you're thinking about. But one of the things that he started talking to Excel about was, you know, there are there are monies and grants from Excel to do some of these things. And I think what he was hoping for is that Sunny gets engaged in trying to, again, assess through Excel whether it's a possibility to either apply for these grants or does it make sense, or again, how could we do something like this? His focus is on 44th, and 44th is frankly a focus for our neighborhood, also aligns with the neighborhood plan in terms of, why we put an overlay there, why we're looking at this as a main street, and why we want to, support businesses on it. So to his point of, could we make this a better corridor, and could we do something with the electrical? He's trying to get us to, move and assess this. So, Melissa, please tell me, what you're thinking about, when you hear this.
Undergrounding is fantastic. Everyone wants it. It
Yes,
is incredibly hard to do. It
yes.
is insanely expensive, and the grant money just isn't there to support undergrounding for something like this necessarily. I will tell you, I've seen two undergrounding projects in the city. One was Cheeseman Park because, well, we own the land.
Okay.
And then the other is Kevin Flynn has been working on a section in his district that he's combining with some work that Dottie was going to do anyways. Because the problem is that there's just not the money to tear up the right of way and to bury all of those lines. like the grant money just isn't there. The pile of money that you think exists is actually very small.
So the pile of
Um,
money through Excel and the state is also small. Is that what you're talking about? Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
It
Well, and
is.
there's federal monies I found and grants that have been done for this, like these beautification things. But if that's it at all, there's none of that left either. I don't think either, like at that level, doing any of these things.
Federal grant money is currently in flux.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I kind of figured
Um,
that, but these are the things that, people, community, business members, residents are bringing to us. So we're kind of doing our due diligence of either understanding them and assessing them and bringing, here's what we know, here's what we learned back. And so, thank you very much for kind of weighing in on that. But that's kind of why we are reacting to it is because folks are bringing it up and saying, hey, here's a contact, go talk to them about this. We haven't done that yet, but free money is always hard to find, is always easier talked about than found. So I get that.
Well, and I'll tell you, there's also some things that you don't necessarily think of in the sense that I know that when we did, so we undergrounded the east side of Cheeseman Park when I worked in that district, and it required updating the electrical of two of the buildings, who were not planning on a special assessment to
Right.
update their electrical. Um, so that was a little bit of a hiccup that we had. We had the land, we had the money, and then it was, oh yeah, and those buildings will need to update their electrical.
and I've seen some of the requirements for like places that have been done, and it's not just as easy as putting stuff underground because you have to find, up in the air there on those poles are transformers and all those sort of things. And all that has to go somewhere. And so then you have to find space, whether they're underground vaults, which are problematic, obviously, electricity and being underground with water, or they're like pedestal locations and things like that. So you end up having to still take space at the ground level to accommodate some of the other infrastructure to get the rest of the wiring underground. So it's not, and you got to decide, do you want that big green pedestal thing in front of your building? Like, they're not exactly the most attractive infrastructure pieces, even at the ground level. So even though the overhead would be going away. Plus, like we had discussed before, the utility poles are not just used by XL, they also have communication lines. And so there's multiple entities and things that you've got to figure out besides just dealing with XL. Um, so anyway, so that's part of that. And I think that's part of the conversation is just, everybody knows what they want and we want it to look great. I think everybody benefits from 44th corridor and doing improvements on there. And that sort of led into this focused conversation of figuring out, are there ways that we can help ourselves knowing that there's not a lot of support coming from other places that we'd have access to while things are in flux. So, um, yeah, I think we'll continue this conversation further in future months.
And I would argue that although undergrounding wires is something we all want, I mean, I don't know too many people that are for that, them and the poles. Um, you can achieve a lot of improvements along the right of way without that. I would argue that very few pedestrians are that interested in the poles, as opposed to are things properly lit? Are there benches? Are there, is there a wide enough sidewalk? There's a lot to an excellent corridor that goes beyond just undergrounding wires.
Yeah. And I agree. I think there's a lot of things we can do higher up that list that have more bang for your buck, let's say, than getting to the polls. Like, and that would be like you said, like you listed off three or four there. That'd be item 3 or 4, before you get to removing the wires as one of the things that adds value to the the strip. So good point. Um, Well, that's basically it. If there's no other conversation on that, I can just do the announcements and we can call it a night. And Lexi, you can make the whole meeting. Didn't you say you had to leave early? Are there
No, no,
any other
sorry.
comments or anything? And I just had those two announcements. We've got, of course, the Health and Wellness Festival coming up this weekend on Saturday from 9 to noon. And then the same announcement as last time, or I guess Troopy brought this up during the block captains meeting the other night. But there's a they'll have the Halloween is tentatively scheduled for October 26th, the parade and stuff for right now, but I think they're working on that currently, and they'll have announcements about that when it's finalized. So anything else anybody would like to discuss?
Did you see the house
Yeah,
that went on the market?
yeah, 1,040,000
1,050,000.
50. Yeah.
I have you been in it?
No, we peeked in the window and I saw the Zillow. What they did,
The
it's
photos.
the widest angled lens you could possibly use in the
It's
history of
so bad.
lenses.
It's so bad. Like I it had an open house and I have clients that live across the street, and so we went into the open house and the agent was like, "This is gonna go this weekend. It's such good craftsmanship, blah blah blah." Like, and I was like just rolling my eyes the whole time. And I went inside, like it's so weird. You can't even tell from the photos, but like they have some spiral staircase that goes up to an attic that's not accessible. And then like the whole yard they didn't do a thing. And
No.
it's like for whatever reason, the drainage was like going into the center. So like you couldn't even step on the yard because it was just like the sponge and there was water and it was like a dry day. It was weird. It's like it's such a bummer. I mean, I
Yeah,
wish that
it's and I'm really worried about it. They painted the whole thing, and that brick already had been like sandblasted when Bob had it, and so the protective layer for moisture had come off that surface of that old sand brick and was already showing freeze thaw damage and stuff, and was going to need to have something done to it. But I'm afraid that paint's going to trap moisture behind it this winter,
yeah,
and it's just going to start crumbling. And so we'll see.
it's
Um,
such a bummer. I know
yeah,
it's just so sad. But anyway, at least
yeah.
they didn't stucco it. I guess it could have been worse.
Tear
Well,
it down.
you
Yeah.
know when you're in trouble when like the first amenity that they kind of tout is the fire pit. You know, it's like that was like number one list on there is like fire pit. It's like, yeah, from Costco. It's like that's the highlight of the whole
Listen,
thing.
it takes a huge education to write those descriptions for properties, you know?
Yeah, exactly. But that was the
Thank you,
highlight of the whole property
ChatGPT.
was their store-bought fire pit. So
It's
anyway,
a loose operation over there, I'll tell you, based on the real estate agent who was friends with the flippers. That was the whole thing.
I can't figure out.
It's a custom changeable doorbell.
Who knows? Literally, I
Oh,
don't know.
like they
But
can
I mean, the
program the
house was,
ring.
you could
Like
That's
just
a
tell.
so that the original property like sold for like what 550 or
550, yeah.
550 something like that. And I was thinking they probably put, what do you think, 2 to 300 into thousand into it. I mean, they redid everything. I mean, HVAC. I mean,
Eh,
even though they did it
ish.
poorly,
Yeah. I mean, I think it was just whatever they cheaply, I mean, the finishes are cheap. Like everything just feels cheap. Yeah,
but
but I mean, you're right. Like that's not free.
it's not free. Even doing it cheap, I was guessing they probably got 200 grand into it. Let's say on the low side. So they're already at like 750. And so you work on a whole thing for like a year and then you got to pay all the commissions and you're only going to make $250,000. I mean, they're not making big profits off of it.
No.
I don't think
Oh,
they're going to.
people flip for a lot less. I just don't understand it. They watch some seminar online and they decide that that's going to make them rich, and it's
Yeah.
just a bummer what it does to some homes, I think personally.
Well, it's
But
one thing to flip when you got paint and carpet you're doing, but that place, I went in there before they started and it was gutted. I mean, like, and it was just full of
well,
litter
that's
box and cat smell, and it was just like, oh God. I mean, there was nothing left original on the inside.
I
Um,
mean, Matt Davis does a lot of old homes, and he was the one that had it under contract before off market, and like he could not figure out how to make the numbers work, even with like cutting off part of it to create another second house and
yeah, I
doing an
went.
ADU. Like he just had all the drawings, and he was like, I just that building the existing house is what's the numbers are not working for me. Like he couldn't do, and he does everything right, so it's not
Yeah,
like
he and I
he's
went and
cutting the
had coffee
corners.
and talked about what you could do and went through, and we were both just shaking our heads. Like it's, yeah,
I
when
know it's just.
you really start looking at it, and it, and the one part I'm really concerned about, is I do know that there were structural defects in the foundation and everything, and I don't believe they addressed that.
No,
Um,
100% no.
yeah. So
So we'll
um,
see.
I
Hopefully
don't
it's
know.
hopefully it's good enough to
How
get
long has it been
somebody
on the
in there.
market now? A couple of weeks, right?
20 days, 3 weeks.
So yeah, it didn't sell that first weekend.
I would have put some money on that, but anyway,
Yeah. So cool.
we'll
All right.
see. We'll
Well,
see.
thanks for keeping us up to date on it, though. Yeah, but I did see that a neighbor texted me too. And I was like, "What?" I was like, "A million
Yeah,
bucks?"
I
So
know.
anyway, all right. Well, if there's nothing else, it looks like everybody else dropped off, so it's just us regulars. So I'll call it a night. And Troopy, you could stop the recording.